Thank you. So that's one of the changes that's happened in the last 2 years. The council currently, the makeup, uh, there was I Arts Assume that the city commission started. You have National Night Out, that's been going on for years. The Juneteenth event, there's Cinco de Mayo event, right? We are bringing diversity into our downtown and our city. So I'll leave it at that. But I'm open to anything else that makes sense. But I will say this, that the challenge what I have is when people say, oh, the city needs to pay for A, B, C, and D. I think there's certain parts where the city can fund, but right now we just don't have the police to staff it for free. So that's where I kind of say we cannot do that at this time. It just, we don't have the money or the manpower to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. This question is a youth question, and Thomas, you'll be up first. How would you encourage and facilitate youth participation in civic activities, volunteerism, community service projects, and youth-led initiatives that promote social responsibility, civic education, and active citizenship among young residents? What platforms or youth advisory councils would you establish to amplify the voices of the youth, incorporate their perspectives into your decision-making process, and ensure that their concerns and interests are represented in the city policies, programs? What do you know about community schools? So, I know this is a very long question, and if you want me to repeat it, I shall.
Can we get 2 minutes to answer that?
You know what, you do have 2 minutes to answer that.
Well, a lot of youth programs are already within the city. Police Activities League, there's used to be a large Cub Scout and Boy Scout. I was a Scoutmaster for 182 here in Suisun a number of years ago until my son eagled out. And then Mr. Miller, right across the street from the fire station, he's still the Scoutmaster, or was, until the unit closed. And then I think he's back with Cub Scouts now. So there's those programs. There's a lot of Girl Scout programs and other programs that are really encouraged to get kids back involved in again. And a lot of that comes to, like when we used to do school visits, once a year the fire department come in, try to teach fire safety and stuff like that. But a lot of those programs take leaders. So personally, I think you need to go out and find those leaders. Because I can't be the leader of all those programs, but I need to find people that will take on those challenges, be the leaders in those groups. The chess club, the group that put this on, amazing. These kids that are published in Amazon in middle school. When I was in middle school, the biggest thing was getting gum out of hair. So, we have some amazing youth these days. We just have to sometimes direct them, and some of them are already found a place. So having those out, we can't financially necessarily support too many of them, but like I said, there's a lot of grants. There's the Little League that was always pretty prolific here, pretty good here. Other programs, so I definitely support all those youth programs.
All right, thank you, sir. Marlon?
Hopefully I could capsulize in my answer that very long question. Anyway, for the youth to be prepared, I think the preparation starts with the children. And for as long as the children understands and appreciates the history of Suisun City, then we're on to something good. Now we have already in place, as Mr. Kamen said, different programs for the youth which are now being undertaken. However, I strongly believe that sports will be one of the areas that we need to put more focus on, simply because we've got the facilities and it allows not only parents, uncles, and everyone else to be involved. If we could get sports teams or hold sports events in a sports arena that we have, for instance, at Peterson Road, which will encourage participation not only of the sports, the youth sports groups in Solano County, but in the entire California or over the country, then we're not only bringing forth an avenue for people to recognize and see what Suisun has to offer, but redirect the attention of our youth towards very, very productive endeavor, which would even be or serve as a career path for them in the area of sports. So sports has got to be given more impetus, including that of educating our youth to become future leaders of the community.
And Amit.
Thank you, great question. I think I was lucky enough to be in the police cadet program in high school. I think that's why I want to bring that back. The fire department had a similar cadet program. For my friends, we would be like, oh, fire cadet, police cadet. That built great character. I've been attending council meetings since I was 16, and at one of the council meetings, there was a lady, Rochelle Sherlock, who works with the seniors. She said, hey, I understand that the youth are the future, the seniors are present. I've said this on the dais. Every policy I make, I look at how does this impact our youth and how is it going to impact our seniors. I've been part of this organization called APAPA, Asian Pacific Conference of Public Affairs, for the past 12 years. We recruit young leaders, I don't like calling them interns, young leaders from Solano County. And although the name is Asian, we welcome everybody. It's open to all. We kind of give them the basic foundation of how to interview, what to look for, and then we try to place them into state offices, local offices, elected officials. And I'm great to see that from after 10 years, I've seen some of those young leaders now are working for state elected officials, some are working for federal officials, some are even running for office. So that's what I've done, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, I now have 5 questions from the audience. I'm just going to go in order for these. I'll start at the end, work my way this way. Starting with Ahmed. First question, Suisun City is facing a financial road bump in revenue. To express what needs to be done to meet city services and combat, please express what needs to be done to meet city services and combat fiscal insolvency.
Thank you. So let me share this. We did not get here within the last 16 months, year and a half that Marlon and I have been on here. There was some past history. I don't want to get to it. Right now, the ball's in our court. We've got to deal with it. One mechanism that we've already actually sort of done is we've stopped spending a lot, whether you believe it or not. There's a lot of things that came to council that we said, hey, we can't afford this. We're not going to go forward with this. The second thing is the mechanism of Measure S. Let me give you grim reality. We only have one person in the city that maintains all of our buildings. Some people think we have 3 or 4 people. We don't. We already have one person that's maintaining all the city buildings. If Measure S does not pass November 5th, November 6th, there's going to be drastic cuts. So the level of service we have right now won't be there if Measure S is not there. So, thank you.
Marlon.
On the issue of Measure S, why were we forced to put it in the ballot? Because the council recognized that there would be a problem that we will have to encounter if we don't have additional funds coming in. Now, the Measure S initiative tends to give us an opportunity to be able to continue the good things we've started without having to worry about the fiscal state of the city. Now, we came up with a resolution for a Measure S initiative just in case this Measure S doesn't pass. And it's already in place so that if this Measure S doesn't pass, despite all efforts, we would still be able to pursue Measure S. But the important thing is we've already put in place checks and balances to ensure that the Measure S funds that we have right now and the budget that we are using right now is monitored regularly on a quarterly basis. That is one. The other thing is we have empowered the Measure S Oversight Committee to ensure that they're able to quarterly review what's going on with the money. But more importantly, this Measure S needs to be there in order to ensure that we will be able to continue the good things that we've started, the programs that we hope to be able to implement.
Thank you. Thomas?
Well, the city has a long history of making very good decisions and some ones that I have questions for, just like you do. These 2 gentlemen have done great work. I can't say anything bad about that. Going forward, though, We do have a plan. The new city manager that was hired has a plan. I've talked to him personally in his office. Going forward, step one though, is we need that loan from our parents, which is you guys, to make that first step happen. Maintain what we have. The state of California doesn't allow for cities to make money in too many different ways. That's why every single city in the state of California has a tax initiative. Ours is not the highest. So, it's just a little bump over what the current Measure S is. It's going to be 15 years. It's got to happen in order to get to that step one. Step two will be economic development. We'll talk about that later. But right now, this has got to happen, and that's the future right now. We have to deal with it right now.
Alrighty, next question. During the summer, everything is for 12 and under. What is there to do for teens during the day? So I'm imagining that question is, there's city resources that are put into things, activities for 12 and under, but not any resources for 13 and up.
Well, it's funny, I've had the other experience, because my son's 12 and under, and I can't get him in some of the programs of the city, because they said, oh, you've got to be like 12 and over. So I'm just kind of looking at this question, I'm like, I don't know, can somebody talk to me afterwards and tell me where this is coming from? I would love to hear more about it. So,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, dude.
No problem. All right, Marlon.
He's on a call.
That's one of my debtors.
So,
Anyway, I encountered the same problem that my colleague has. No? Some of the residents have asked me, what programs can my son or daughter be involved in, because he or she is under 12. And just like my colleague here, I would want input from the community after this discussion on what activities they could be involved in through your suggestion. Thank you so much.
thank you, sir. Thomas.
I find it's all down to research, and I think we can make the research a little bit better for our citizens. There are a lot of programs out there for all ages. Well, the city's not going to be able to sponsor any of these programs, but we can definitely publicize them on the website. Wasn't long ago that the city website was kind of unnavigable and doesn't have a lot of information easily attainable. But I think what I've seen in the last year or two has been big strides. And what we can do is encourage, let's seek out or have someone seek out or have all of you seek out these programs, tell us, and that we can help publicize them on one place. Solano County has a Facebook page, Suisun has a Facebook page, and they also have a website. So we could have youth activities in one location. I think that's one thing we can do to help.
May I give a clarification? So are you guys aware of the PAL Center? Because there's a lot of activities. If you do archery, level 1 and 2 art classes, code introduction, cooking classes, counselors in training, homework help, life after high school, park cleanups. So just want to kind of put that out there. And I'd love to talk with the person if you do have a question afterwards.
Marlon. Let's see. Code enforcement is a major issue in Suisun City. What can be done to optimize combating blight and other code violations?
There has been a series of meetings with the different police departments of Suisun, Backville, Fairfield, in order to address issues with respect to code enforcement. It appears that code enforcement can only be very effective if we've got community engagement as part of it. Our police department needs as much support they can from input from the community with respect to how code enforcement could be done effectively. Despite the laws that we have, we still face the problem with not enough police officers to be able to do code enforcement duties all the time. And we hope to be able to establish a system by which we could fill up the necessary manpower gap requirements so that we could deliver even the basic of services that is needed by the community with respect to code enforcement.
And Amit.
Thank you for that. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is where the cadet program would come in handy. They could go and if there's an abandoned vehicle, tag it, tow it, the volunteers and police services. But the one thing that Marlon and I we did on the council was there was a request to add more police officers. But we heard from the community that code enforcement was a key thing. So at the council, we, I pushed back, and thanks, there's a lot of back, pushed back, and we, instead of having just one current code enforcement officer, we hired 2 more. So we just got the report this past month, and there were approximately 300 or so, ticketing code enforcement violations, and that was because we have 2 new people. Keep in mind, government does not work fast. It takes time. It takes 3 months for it to come on the council, then they have to recruiting process 3 months, and then it takes another, 3 to 6 months for the person to be on the ground. Thank you.
Thomas.
Code enforcement is kind of a tricky balance there. You want to get rid of the blight, but you don't want to make it a tax initiative in its own, because you can go around and, like cities of Berkeley have been known to have a bunch of code enforcements and they'll ticket cars all over the place to the point where it becomes a nuisance itself. So in Suisun here, I know they hired 1 code enforcement officer, 2. Oh, we got 3 total now. So that's great. They can go through and start doing that, but it does go slow. There is a process. You guys are the eyes and ears of this, so give them a call when you need to find something. This is important because we haven't had code enforcement for a while. So they do tend to pay for themselves and fines and everything if we can collect them, which then that's a whole nother problem. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, the next question for Amit. There's a lot of piles, this is related to code enforcement. There is a lot of piles of trash everywhere in the city. What are your views on keeping our city clean? What are you gonna do about it?
So, great question. We have Donald LeBlanc in the alleys, we have Annabelle and others that do monthly cleanups. And when I get the opportunity, I'm there with them. Second thing is, the city is actually working in partnership with Republic Services. Generally speaking, when their garbage trucks are driving around on Monday services, if there's garbage that they can pick up, is there a way we can contract with them to do that? Third, I think if it's on private property, that's where the code enforcement aspect comes in. Back in the day, I could go to my neighbor and say, hey man, can you take the garbage out? And these days, they say, well, who are you? Get off the lawn. So we have different type of code enforcement, which is for private property. So let me clarify, we have 2. One, the police community services officers only handle everything on public property. Code enforcement, which only have 1 person, they handle everything on private property. So I just want to make that distinction. So technically there's 4 people. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon?
Well, cleanliness efforts have now been major part of the plan of action of the beautification committee. In line and working with the Public Works Department, we have established an annual program by which we will prioritize different communities and initiatives to have cleaning efforts in those particular areas. Now, garbage, as we know it, is not simply garbage itself thrown by the homeless people, but we now have found out that garbage from non-registered contractors are now being also thrown in or along the city. Now the beauty of it is there are some areas with cameras, so we might be able to pinpoint who these culprits are and have them cited to ensure that they don't do the same thing. And the last thing, of course, is thanks to Annabelle Rivera, member of our beautification committee, who got a $10,000 grant in order to give tips or to cover up those big trash dumpsters whose trash will now be covered by TERP so that they won't spread garbage along Highway 12.
Thank you. Thomas?
Well, there's two basic piles of garbage, basically, those generated by homeless encampments and those generated by illegal dumping. The homeless encampments have their own set of laws and rules and how you can apply fines and levy corrective action against that group. The illegal dumping, in the past, I haven't seen it for a number of years. They used to have a trailer pulled up, right on Railroad, just east of Sunset. They used to have illegal dumping there. Well, they encouraged a fence there, that stopped a lot. Now it's still on the railroad side, and trying to get the railroad to do something about their property. Well, that takes about 6 months to a year. So, but they did have a trailer there with a camera on it that you can move around, solar powered. So that's one avenue we could go, and I know Fairfield still has one we could borrow.
Thank you. This is the last of the questions from the audience. We'll start with Thomas this time. Thomas, is Suisun City a mayor-strong city or a council-strong city? What's the difference and which do you prefer? You do have 2 minutes.
Okay. So the mayor and the council is just an advisory. The only true power they have is to fire and hire city managers and lawyers. Isn't that correct? So other than that, we just advise on they just advise on what their vision of the city is to be and pass it on to the city manager. The city manager is in charge of the department heads, and the department heads are in charge of the people that work here. It's just an advisory council. Power, if you think of it as a position of power, you're already heading down the wrong aisle. It's the position of influence. Basically, I'm going to try to influence the rest of the council to see how you feel about things. Not necessarily specifically how I feel. I know you have a lot of issues that you find are very important, and enough people come to me, I'm going to make that my priority. Not compromising my own feelings or values, but I'm going to make that priority because enough of you have come forward and said this is what's important to you now. That's what we have to do. So I don't see it as a mayor-strong or a council-strong city, but we do have a good, conscientious representation of our community and our council. That's what I would say to that.
Thank you. Marlon?
We council members, including the mayor, should be your voice and should be your representatives. And as such, the mayor and the council should work as a team, so it's a team effort. Although the mayor has some privileges over other council members with respect to some protocols or procedures, we are co-equal with respect to the responsibilities and the representations that we are making for the community. And as such, it should be a team effort, so I consider it a council strong with the support of the mayor, that all the voices of the community, including their insights, problems, solutions, recommendations, should be discussed and decided collectively for the benefit and well-being and progress of the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amit, please.
Thank you. So the question was, what is the clarifying question? So we're a general law city, which means the mayor has the exact same power as the council member. Our vote is equal. In other cities, such as San Francisco or Chicago, you have a mayor-strong city, where the mayor actually hires and fires the department heads. That's the differential. I actually prefer what we have currently right now because it takes consensus, and at the end of the day, you've got to be able to count to 3. Whether it's the mayor, or it's a council member, or anybody else, if you can't count to 3, nothing's going to get pushed forward. So that's where the public comes in. If the public comes in and you sway enough members of the council for an issue, you've got your vote going forward. You look at the traffic light issue, right? The city's now finally upgrading our signals because of voter forms that we have. I brought it up to the council, and now it was bid, and now they're doing the construction. So that's where I think at the end of the day, even if it's Mayor Strong, they've got to be able to build consensus. So we need some, as long as there's consensus and team effort, it doesn't really matter which process it is. So thank you.
Thank you. So team, I know everybody's gonna be happy to hear this. This is the final question. And so final question, first up is gonna be Marlon for this question. And so I'm not sure if you guys actually have opponents, but the question is, what do you think is the most significant difference between you and your opponent?
In terms of looks, there's hardly any. Everyone looks good. But the difference would lie in the fact that I would want to remain in office because of what is in my heart. I feel for the homeless people, I feel for regular members of the community. I have the same problems that they have financially and with all other challenges that we see facing the city. I see very little difference with each and every one here with respect to their passion to serve the city. However, let's look at the qualifications, the education, and what has been done by those sitting here in relation to pursuing a beautiful, safe, healthy, and prosperous Suisun City. And if the programs that we have, each and every one of us, which may differ, then that is also a very important point to consider. Which ones are going to be effective enough, workable enough, and which ones could we work together with each other in order to ensure that it happens. So good luck to every other member here, and that's how I see things.
Thank you. Ahmed?
I won't talk about the differences, but I'll talk about myself. What I do bring is I bring a steady leadership and experience. I'm also a leader who won't be afraid to put our community first with fiscal responsibility. I think everybody here, Tom, Marlon, highly respect them. But with my business background, having gone through the ups and downs, knowing how tough it is, as every family is, you've got to hold a checkbook when the money isn't coming in. Looking at our PG&E bills are going up, our gas is going up, everything's going up. Looking at it through the eyes of our residents, that's what I will represent to Suisun City, is to be your voice. So just talking about myself, and I just hope I can earn your support.
Thank you, Ahmed. And Thomas?
He's so young. No, I'm kidding. It's about all I got. I love these two guys, and I really respect and work well with all the city council members. So I just feel that I was asked, and I really look forward to serving on the city council if I'm elected. I have certain goals and aspirations to enter into with the city going forward. I'd like to see certain public events kept in the city, things that bring our community